Welcome to the next episode of Study of Shape. So last time I asked you guys which one of these 3 gowns you would like to see next. And the majority of votes were for this gown designed by Pierre Cardin. I will probably pronounce his name wrong the whole time, sorry about that. I'm really trying. By the way, if you're new here, my name is Henny and this is Studio Henny's. Right, let's quickly look at who Pierre Cardin was, just a short overview. So Pierre Cardin was an Italian-born but French fashion designer. He worked for a short while for Elsa Schiaparelli. Then he was the first tailor at the House of Dior in 1946. In 1950, he founded his own house, and he's best known for his avant-garde style and space-age designs. Now, this design in question that we are going to look at today was designed in 1962, and the fabrication for the garment is silk gazar. Now, I couldn't find a lot of information about this gown, so I really had to rely on my instincts and just all the pictures that I could find online. Let me just tell you that we're gonna work a lot on the bias. In fact, this whole dress is on the bias. Now, for this demonstration, as usual, I'm just going to use calico because we are mainly going to focus on the shape of the garment and just try to figure out how it could be. And as usual, I'm just going to work on my half-scale dummy. Right, let's get started. So as I mentioned, this is going to be cut on the bias, so I just positioned my calico along the bias line on the dummy, and I started to smooth the fabric towards the side seam and on the shoulders, and already just trying to create some underbust shaping. This dress does have a slanted dart towards the side, but it doesn't have any side seam, which you are going to notice. So just pinning it towards the back as well, so it's nicely sitting around the waist and the upper hip area, and just marking the neckline and the armhole, the side seam, and this dropped waistline. I'm also drawing the side seam position where it would be, so it gives me like a good reference later. I also marked the darts that I just pinned away, and also the waistline. It's good to have, marked these things even though you're not going to have a waist seam, but it gives you a good reference along the way. And I also marked like a rough hemline. Obviously this dress is going to be longer, but I just wanted to have have it leveled, and then later I can just extend it longer. Yes, so I'm just cutting some excess away, and again just marking my shoulder line, etc. Here I'm just cutting some excess away again. And now I just wanted to have like a little bit more flare to the skirt, because it flares out quite a bit at the back. It's quite flat on the front, so it mainly flares towards the back. So I'm just slashing into the fabric and just filling it with some extra pieces of fabric. It's literally like a slash and spread, but on the dummy. And then I was ready to just take this first draft and move it to the pattern paper. I'm just going to close that underbust dart a little bit, because that dart, it should not go all the way to the hem. It finishes around the hip level, so I needed to close it a little bit. So I've done it on my draped draft, and then I was ready to transfer all this info to the paper. And then I'm just smoothing the lines and just making the whole dress longer. Just marking the hem. And just adding some seam allowance so I can quickly stitch a mock-up. And then I just, I needed to check it on the dummy as well, just to see how it sits. and just making sure that it looks all right, and you know, all the style lines are good, and just, you know, just a general check. You should always, you know, check your paper pattern as well on the dummy, if possible. Here I feel like I added a little bit too much, so I'm just trying to level the hem already on the paper pattern. So I'm just making sure it hits the floor, and then I drew my line, and this is like a first draft for the dress and how it goes so far. Guys, just a super quick recap. So I've got the paper pattern on the dummy. I do have some fitting issues here, which is, I kind of expected it when I closed the dart, but it's no biggie. So I did have a little bit of a gap here, like a gaping going on. So just like closing this, gonna shift it into the dart, and also adding a little bit more here on the side seam. And so that's what I'm going to do. And then I also, obviously I trimmed the hem, as you could see, but I feel like it could come to the back just a tiny bit more. So I'm just gonna add like 3 centimeters here to the back, so it has a bit more of a trail going on to the back. Actually, I'm not gonna adjust this area the way I've done, because as soon as I do it, my dart opens way too much. And because the dress seems to be quite flat on the front, so I don't want to create any more flare here that is unnecessary. So I'm just going to do a little trick here. You can do something like this when the gap here like is tiny, so you have like maybe like 1 centimeter or so. I'm just going to ease this area in, so it should sit flat on the arm, or flatter than it is right now. So that should resolve that issue, hopefully. I still need to add the side seam as I showed to you, but I'm not going to shift this into the dart. And this is how the pattern looks right now. Guys, just a quick pause. Thank you so much for watching. And if you got this far, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. But most importantly, watch the video till the end. Thank you. Also, I wanted to announce that I started selling my fashion illustrations. Now, if you are watching my channel on a more regular basis, you know that I do my own design developments as well, and not just you know, vintage designers, but my own designs. And I love to do fashion illustration that is going to complement this design. And I decided to sell them as a digital download. So you can, you know, print it at home or print it with a professional printer, and you know, just have it nicely hanging on your wall, or maybe, you know, gift it to a fashion friend. Anyway, the link is in the description. You can check out my shop. I just keep you know, uploading more and more as it comes. Also, we need to vote for the next episode. So here are the runner-ups for the next episodes. I thought one of them is going to be a circle back to a previous offering. Option number 1 is this gown from Christian Dior. Next one up is this gown from Roberto Capucci. And option number 3 is this beautiful dress from Givenchy. So, as usual, just let me know in the comments. Okay, I think let's get back to this dress. Right after this, I just moved on to stitching a proper mock-up for this, just so I can see the fit of the dress, because it's cut on the bias. So I just, you know, also wanted to see how it falls. So I just quickly moved on to stitching and, you know, just checking it on the dummy on the way. Right, so just a little bit of an update. I have reached this point. Unfortunately, I don't really like how the darts are, because it became very long, and also it sort of, you see, like it creates this kind of square. I don't like it. I need to change it. So that's all right. So the dart is going to finish here, but it means that I would need to take more off of the width of the hem. I haven't done this ease that I talked about before also I think I'm gonna change the neckline, and also the back can come a little bit lower, and the hem is still not great. So what I'm doing usually in a situation like this, I'm just, you know, I try to hit the floor and just see where it should be. So I'm just going to mark the line where it hits the floor right now, as you can see. Okay, I mean, it's not bad, and also this is enough for me to move on to creating the back. So I'm just gonna move on there, and then I'm just gonna finish it all together. Right, so I just quickly marked the hemline, and then I started preparing the pieces for the back. Essentially, I just folded a rectangle along the bias line. So where it's folded, it's going to be on the bias. And then I started playing around on the back of the dummy, just try to sort of mold the fabric the way it should sit. It's a little bit of a play, because you should not touch the top edge of the fabric, which is on the bias. You should play around with the bottom edge, so sort of like just moving the fabric around. Once I was happy, I just moved on to marking my side seam, and also, you know, the armhole, the shoulder, and, you know, also the edge of this piece where it's going to hit the back. It should be quite fitted on that area where it's sitting on your back. And just cutting some excess fabric away. Right, then I moved on to the lower panel, which is going to be done in the same way as the top part. So it's all on the bias there. So the top edge of the fabric is folded on the bias. And then I'm just playing around with the bottom edge that is going to be inserted into the seam there, and just try to get the right angle. Again, it's a bit of like, you know, you just need to play around. We just need to play with the angles and the width of that fabric just to get the right position. There is going to be a center back seam on the dress. I noticed this is where the zipper is on the original dress. But to be honest, I would think that there is also some sort of a closure on either of the sides underarm, because I don't see how else someone can actually get into this dress with this single zipper at the center back. I would think that probably there is some hook and eyes on the underarm. Right, so when I was happy, I just marked all the lines and the seam lines, and just trying to see, you know, if I'm happy with how it drops at the back. And then I noticed I made a mistake. Great. So there is actually the side seam of this dress is shifted to the back, and the back actually comes down in a straight line. So I needed to fix that. So I'm quite glad that I actually recut this dress now, and that I spotted this mistake so I can actually fix it. So I started to trace the little back drop pieces as well now on the pattern, so I can cut it and start stitching it up. And as you can see, I'm just shaving that armhole off, as I marked before on the other dress. And here I'm just adding that piece that was missing. And I'm just adding some seam allowances to this piece. And then here is a little trick for you guys if you don't know about this. When you have a piece that includes a lot of mirroring, I only did 1/4 of the pattern and then I just folded it and then folded it again. So in the end, I'm going to have a perfectly mirrored pattern, which is much faster than if you were to, you know, trace every part of it. And here it is. We have a perfectly mirrored pattern and I'm just marking the bias cut grain line. And I did the same with the lower piece. So just fold it in half and just mirror the piece. Again, I'm just adding some seam allowances and then I'm ready to start cutting. And then I'm off to stitch this finally. I mean, this dress, you know, it looks simple, but when something is simple, it's actually not simple because every single mistake is going to show. So, you know, the fit needs to be perfect.